Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play ChäoS Child. In the last episode, Serika Noe went to Tokyo General Hospital in order to meet with Mio Kunasato, who turned out to be the person that Momose had sent her to try and find her answers, because she wouldn't and indeed couldn't tell Serika in person outright. And so it was that Serika found out that Mio was apparently doing some sort of work at the General Hospital, namely on the 5th floor, which is the psych ward, along with Detective Shinjo from the police department, which is highly unusual. However, it is related to the the rather unusual cases of ChäoS Child Syndrome. And it was through her persistence and determination that Serika learned something that both Mio and Shinjo, and by extension Momose, were keeping from the rest of the public of Shibuya. That in one of those hospital rooms, there is a certain individual being confined, albeit of his own free will, which of course is none other than Takuru Miyashiro, who apparently has somewhat recovered from ChäoS Child Syndrome, albeit he is apparently still very weak, and as such, he can no longer use his powers or manifest his D-Sword. Yet, Takuru is collaborating along with Mio and Shinjo for the sake of finding the facility that Suichi Wakui, the Committee of 300 member who is also moonlighting as a teacher at Hekiho Academy, has supposedly disappeared to. Yeah, I still have many questions, because during that conversation, Takuru was almost certainly alluding to the fact that he is fully aware of the events that led him to sealing away Serika Noe's personality and powers, and thus having her lead the life of a quote-unquote ordinary normal girl. However, the gap in Serika's memories has obviously led her to trying to restore those memories, and whether or not that will actually be a good thing remains to be seen. Also, that doesn't really explain just how and why Hekiho Academy is even housing ChäoS Child Syndrome patients. Was everything we went through a dream, just as Serika believes? No, I don't believe that. I believe that there is more to this story. We're going to have to find the truth eventually. But anyway, it's nighttime. I listened to Kunasato talk late into the evening and just barely managed to catch the last train home. Thus we are back in the apartment at Yokohama. The second I fell into bed, I felt an exhaustion coming on that I couldn't fight. And I fell asleep without even changing clothes. So much had happened today, which is a big understatement. I was sure I would never forget it. What about the old me, though? The one who still lingers beneath Serika's consciousness, because she does remember when she's asleep, or the horrific crimes. The fact that she is the true perpetrator behind the return of the new generation madness. And the only reason that people believe that Takuru Miyashiro is the culprit is because he took the fall to try and protect Serika. Because even after all they've been through, they are still childhood friends, albeit not at this instance. Did she ever have any amazing experiences like this? My query is, if Serika does manage to regain her memories, will her original personality manifest itself once more, basically undoing everything that Takuru Miyashiro had sacrificed to try and keep her normal? Or will Serika actually have the mental capacity to realize that she has definitely gone astray? Will she try to make amends? I don't have the answer to that question at this time. Or was her life boring and peaceful? I can answer that question. Yeah. Actually, I won't. Not to Serika, at least. Not yet. There was a white light in front of me. It was so bright and so hot that I thought that I might burn myself. Is this from the accident? The car accident that she'd inadvertently walked into? Or is this a memory of the final moment before Takuru Miyashiro changed Serika Inoe's life forever? The light was shining down on me. It was the same light as before. It was probably the headlights of the car that struck me. Maybe. This was part of my memories from the accident. It was too bright for me to see the car. There was just the light shining on me. It felt like I'd yelled something important. Maybe. And I've been crying. No, this is not from the accident. This was when Serika was pleading with Takuru not to undo everything that she was. But I couldn't remember. Because that is precisely what he did. It was so frustrating to have fragments of memories but not the whole. In other words, yeah. Even though this was the means that Takuru Miyashiro had used to try and make Serika Noe atone for her crimes, I guess you can also say that it's kind of like a form of penitence or imprisonment, maybe, if I'm being poetic, which I'm probably not. But like Rintaro Okabe in Steins Gate when he was meddling with the world lines, Takuru Miyashiro's alteration of reality has drawn forth from the well unintended consequences, changes and events that he himself may or may not have been able to predict. The headlights of my dream eventually grew to blot out everything else. And then I woke up. And now it's morning. I put my hand to my cheek. It was wet. I'd been crying. I rubbed my red eyes as hard as I could and stood up. Maybe I could say goodbye to these dreams today. I don't think that's going to be possible. Because you did make a promise to help Takuru and Mio try and find Wakui's secret facility. I looked at the clock and it had only been 3 hours since I'd gone to sleep. That must have been very late, or I don't know. I stayed awake until dawn, thinking and doing research.
案外性に合ってるのかも。
Well, considering the fact that it was Takuru Miyashiro who had shaped that personality, it only stands to reason that Serika has an inquisitive nature. I put together everything I researched and used it to think. And when I thought, I found out where I had questions and researched them some more. For some strange reason, when I was working, I didn't feel sleepy. I honestly thought about getting a job at Mimose's company someday. Well, that might help your living situation.
それとも以前の私って調査オタク？そんなの聞いたことないけど。
That's because, I'm not sure what Takuru has said to me or the others about what he has done, about what he is responsible for. Today was Sunday. A normal girl might be getting ready to go shopping with her friends, but I was different. Just like Konosato told me 2 days ago, I was about to...
よっし、行きますか。
Yeah. There are things to do, and none of it involved shopping. It was a little early still, but I quickly got ready and left. And there is that same message that we saw the other day, so I won't read it again. Now that I think about it, part of me wonders whether or not the Committee of 300 is using this message as a shield. It's certainly not above them. I looked up at the board. It was still displaying the same message from yesterday. I stood a little way from the station entrance and watched the people go by. I quickly found the group I was looking for.
お買い物かな。
There was a group of ChäoS Child Syndrome patients walking through the crowd. They were all old women. No, young girls. They were crossing the street, laughing and talking and wearing the same clothes that young people wore. I had no idea what their real age was. But from the way they were talking, they might have been middle school girls. They might have been part of Hekiho Academy's middle school. Yeah. There's also one other thing that I didn't mention for my recap, is the fact that, for some reason, it isn't just Takuru who has ChäoS Child Syndrome. Kurusu, or perhaps Senri, Hanai, Kazuki, and Uki are also at the general hospital in a coma, all suffering from ChäoS Child Syndrome. But why them? Why are they suffering as well? Is their condition a result of Takuru Miyashiro's actions? Or have they been suffering from ChäoS Child Syndrome this entire time? Yeah, we really need to uncover the truth about that. The people around them were ignoring them, probably because they'd seen them a million times before. But a couple of foreigners were staring at them in shock. They even took their phones out and started taking pictures. The girls showed no signs of noticing and continued their conversations. Let's just hope the situation doesn't get ugly.
やっぱり本当だったんだ。
I remembered what Miyashiro had told me the other day.
本当に気がつかないんだ。というより、認識できないと言った方がいいかもしれない。
He was telling me about the strange symptoms of ChäoS Child Syndrome.
僕から見れば、碧峰学園に通っている生徒たちは、皆普通の中学生や高校生だった。
So for some reason, anyone with ChäoS Child Syndrome would perceive anyone else with ChäoS Child Syndrome As if they didn't have Chaos Child Syndrome.
見ているだけじゃなく触れることもあったけど、その肌が老人のものだとは思えなかった。
But what is this bizarre phenomenon?
でも世間でいろいろ言われるでしょ。
それも全く。僕たちはカオスチャイルド症候群を地震による PTSD だって理解してた。
Those people. They can't all be gigalomaniacs. I wonder.
PTSD?
What did that mean again? We're about to learn anyway, but it's post-traumatic stress disorder. It felt like I'd heard it before. We did.
心的外傷後ストレス性障害。要は地震の記憶がフラッシュバックしてきて吐き気を覚えたりうつ状態になったりすることだ。宮代たちは自分たちの症状をそういうものだと勘違いさせられていた。
If this is true, then Chaos Child Syndrome was never just about trauma.
でも実際は全然違ってた。症候群に関するニュースは映像でも音声でも画像でも何度も見ていたはずなのに。それに事件の被害者が全員カオスチャイルド症候群だったっていうことも僕はこの前初めて知ったんだ。
The victims of the return of the new generation madness. They were all gigalomaniacs as well. The next thing I knew, the Chaos Child girls had vanished to the other side of the street. Is this really reality? They were walking around and living normal lives like other people. They could talk to people and look on TV and the internet. But anything about their real appearance, anything that would tell them that they actually had the bodies of very old people, they wouldn't see or hear. It was kind of like they were living in their own wonderful dream. A delusion. Completely unaware that it's a delusion. That's how it felt to me. The day after I'd heard what Miyashiro had to say, I borrowed Yeah, I borrowed Aoi's phone again and done my own research on ChäoS child syndrome. When I looked at what I saw online in light of what he told me, I realized how many people had no idea what they were talking about. It was like they just accepted the superficial things they were told and didn't try to find the truth. They were shutting their eyes and ears to what they didn't want to hear. You and Takuru had a word for such people. You often refer to them as wrong-siders. Yeah, I also learned that people like that were called wrong-siders. They were on the wrong side of the information divide.
それとクルスノノさん
I'd also learned something important about Nono Kurusu, the girl who might have been my friend. It might have been the clue I needed to learn about my past.
そろそろかな
I looked at the clock and it was almost time. I headed into the crowd in the directions the little girls had gone and started walking to my destination. It's like we're tailing them. Back here, I could see the inside of the academy from a distance. There was no one there, not even the guard from the other day, which is a very worrying sign. None of the people who thought they were students were there. At the school were there. Detective Shinjo and Kunosato's plan was working so far. So they've managed to keep everyone out of the building. That's certainly going to draw the attention of Wakui and the committee. I called up an image in my mind. It was the man I'd seen on Kunosato's computer. His name was... We already know what his name is. Suichi Wakui.
やっぱりそうだ
Sometimes in the fragments of my memories, I would see him in a special place. It wasn't a classroom or the club room. It was a mysterious place surrounded by machinery. He was standing there and telling me something. Before the accident, I was meeting him in private in a secret place in this school. Of course, there'd be more than one facility. It's not the one under the hospital that we're looking for. Yeah. Also on account of the fact that Sakuma died during the events that led Takuru to altering Serika Noe's existence. Once again, I doubt we'll be seeing him around here. I think he's very much dead.
でどこだ
I turned around and found Kunosato standing behind me. When did she get here? Or maybe she was here the whole time. Could she at least say hello? No, that's never her style.
この学園のどこにある刑事さんとそのあいつはさっき裏門から学園へ入った
So Takuru and Shinjo are here as well, covering more ground. If I were to take a guess, I would say that given the fact that we've never seen this other facility in the upper areas of Hekiho Academy, that it's probably underground, like the facility at the hospital.
手を回して学園内は無人にしてある。中へ入ってしまえばもう大丈夫だろう。
Are we fine for the moment?
私たちも行こう。
Yeah, those must have been some very big strings to pull. Kunasato started walking. She stood up tall like always and walked right into the school. I followed behind her, bent over and trying to be sneaky, which is making you even more conspicuous instead, Mayor Serika. Also remember the fact that, previously we had seen rather odd machinery and stuff like that. Maybe the facilities are identical. When I told them 2 days ago about the vision I had, when I told them about the place where I'd been meeting Wakui, all three of them had gone pale. It was in that room. There was a place in Hekiho Academy that wasn't a classroom or a club room, where the sun never shone. It was filled with machines I'd never seen before. The man named Wakui was standing there and telling me something. When I told them that, Kunasato put her hand to her forehead and yanked at her hair in frustration. She'd already thoroughly searched Hekiho Academy. I guess I didn't search it thoroughly enough, she said, frustrated. No, you didn't. Of course, we had to go search the school again. The question was what to do with Miyashiro. I didn't think he needed to come with us, but evidently he had to go wherever the device was that I'd seen in my vision. Kunasato and Shinjo had been searching for that device this whole time, they said. I wonder if the committee has actually managed to reverse engineer Noah too.
で、その場所はどこにあるんだ?
In which case, that would actually fill in a lot of the missing gaps that we still have left in the story. Kunasato asked again as she walked in front of me. I followed behind her and tried to summon the vision in my head, but I couldn't be sure.
どこって言われても、学園の中を歩いてみないと。その場所を見つけたら言います。
あまり悠長にはしていられないぞ。学園内を無人にしておける時間もそれほど長くないからな。
No, otherwise they'll get suspicious if they're not already. We walked inside the school building. Back in we go. When we got inside, the two of them were standing in a corner. Takuru Miyashiro was really outside. He wasn't wearing handcuffs or anything else.
すいません、刑事さん。
ん？
この間も思ったんですけど、二人ともこの人を信用しすぎなんじゃないですか？連続殺人事件の犯人なんですよ。もうちょっとしっかりというか。
Suddenly I felt like an idiot. I was just a teenage girl. Why would a detective take advice from me?
ああ、宮代くんなら大丈夫だ。心配しなくていい。
そんなことよりさっさと探せ。
Forget it. Wasn't it really important? I didn't really understand what was going on.
わかりました。行きますよ。
I looked down the hallway from the entrance as I spoke. I remembered the vision again. That was... yeah, it was a very dark spot.
日の当たらない校舎か、それとも地下かな。
I started walking, relying only on my hazy memories. I'd started by checking all the hallways. Something might ring a bell. Yeah. We need those suppressed memories now. For better or worse, we need them. The others followed me, after me, staring intently at their surroundings. I was paying close attention, too, to see if I remembered anything.
あ、そうだ。
I turned back to face Kunasato as I walked.
クルス・ノノさんについて聞きたいことがあるんですけど。
今お前がするべきことはそれか？
She was glaring at me incredibly fiercely, but it was something I needed to know. I didn't back down.
クルスさん、怪我をしてましたよね。胸のところ。
ん？ああ、確かに。
The detective answered instead of Kunasato. I glanced at Miyashiro before I spoke again.
ネットで見たんですけど、それって例の事件に巻き込まれたせいだって本当ですか
？That's how it happened. She got stabbed by, someone when she was retrieving the camera. But Takuru is strangely silent. As are the others. For some reason, all three of them fell silent. Miyashiro was the one responsible for the so-called return of the new generation madness. In the end, he hadn't killed himself like he said he was going to. It was said he'd chickened out, and he'd surrendered. We know the truth. There were a lot of different rumors about why he said he was going to kill himself in public. The most popular one was that he'd failed to recreate the new generation madness. The last New Generation Madness 6 years ago had been composed of 7 murders. But those serial killings were conducted by 2 people who actually belonged to the Church of Divine Light. But this time there had only been 6. There was supposed to be another on November 4th, but it had failed. And it was Nono Kurisu who was supposed to be the target. She was Miyashiro's stepsister. It didn't make the news. But on November 4th, Kurisu had been attacked by someone and put in a coma. She'd been found in time to save her life, but just like I'd seen in that hospital room, she was still asleep. And of course, the one who was thought to have attacked her was...
どうなの宮代。
I glared at him, but he didn't answer. He just looked back at me, and for some reason, his eyes were sad. I just couldn't understand what this murderer was thinking. There's a lot you currently don't understand. So I started telling him what I'd learned.
同じ施設だったのよね。妹さんに続いてお姉さんまで手にかけようとしたの。クルスさんと同じ新聞部にいたみたいね。アップされてた動画に名前が残っていたもの。
Of course, it wasn't Takuru who killed Yui, Tachibana, or the others for that matter. But we know this. I wasn't sure if I should ask what I really wanted to know. I should have realized yesterday, when Miyashiro had called Kurisu Nono, her first name. Kurisu and Miyashiro were close, which meant that since I was Kurisu's friend, he knew me too.
あんた、私を知ってるの？
知らない。
I'm not surprised that you gave that answer. You're afraid of what might happen should she regain her memories. But there is a very high chance of that happening if we go through with this. There was no hesitation in his voice. It was clearer and louder than I'd ever heard him before.
そんなはずないわ。私とクルスさんが一緒に写ってる写真があるんだから。
知らない。僕とノノは仲が悪かった。ノノの友達関係なんて把握してない。
その写真、新聞部の部室で撮られたものよ。部長だったあなたが知らないわけないでしょ。
知らない。
おい、 そういう話は後にしろ。急げ。
Kunosato suddenly pushed me hard from behind. Fine, fine. It was as if she was trying to cut me off for Miyashiro's sake. Both Miyashiro and the detective started walking faster too. It was like they decided in advance that this is how they would respond to that question. They're trying to pretend like none of it ever happened. For Takuru's sake. Unfortunately, Takuru, Miyashiro, your efforts on that front will inevitably come to nothing. This didn't make sense. It felt like Momose and Kunosato were hiding something about my past. And then there was the way that Detective Shinjo acted when he first saw me. Yeah, he was shocked. And more than anything, there was the way Miyashiro had cried when he'd seen me. I could hear myself grinding my teeth. I balled my hands into fists. This was incredibly frustrating. I had so many big hints, and I knew everyone was trying to hide something. For good reason. But I couldn't remember what it was. Except in your dreams.
そっちはダメだ。
Miyashiro suddenly spoke in a sharp tone. We all stopped. The sign said that the annex was up ahead. This was where I'd found the newspaper club room.
何？
そっちは最後だ。他の可能性を全て潰してからだ。
何なのあんた。別にどこからでもいいでしょ。それに新聞部に行けば何かヒントが。
He doesn't want to go there.
お前はノノを助けにここに来てるんだろ。
That was the reason that she'd given. If Takuru realizes that she has another reason for being here, he might try to keep her out of the loop as much as possible.
新聞部の周りに怪しい部屋なんてなかった。これは間違いない。
Miyashiro turned around without waiting for my answer.
あんたちょっと。待って。
I suddenly saw a clear vision in my head and my mind and yelled. That was...
どうした？
My legs started moving on their own. The memories became clearer along with the vision. Here is a room. We need to find it. The view of the courtyard from the window, the trees and plants. The scene in the window connected with my memories. That's right. Whenever I talked with the Wakari in that strange room, I always went through this hallway, probably. And after going through this hallway, what did I do?
おい、思い出したのか？
ちょっと静かにしてください。気が散ります。
I started to walk, following the hazy trail of my memories, going through the courtyard, and I ended up outside the annex. This was the first floor of the annex. I stood in front of the building's wall. What was I going to do with the wall? There's another secret passage. I wasn't sure why, but I did what the memories told me to and put my hand on the wall. I could hear Miyashiro and the detective gasp. Huh? I didn't believe what I was seeing either. My hand had gone through the wall. And here I thought it was some kind of biometrics, but apparently the wall is a delusion as well. My hand went straight into the school building, as if there were nothing there. I could see the wall, but it didn't exist. Yeah, a very clever delusion. I couldn't feel anything against my hand.
そこか。
何これ。
My mind was shocked and confused. But my body remembered this feeling. I pushed forward and deeper into the wall. The next thing I knew, I was in up to my shoulder without resistance. It looked like something out of a cartoon. This is no hologram. This is certainly not a hologram. Suddenly I came back to my senses and leaped back. I fell backward onto my butt. When I looked up, the wall was still in front of me. It was impossible to believe that my hand had just gone through it, and yet it has.
どういうこと？
It was my own memories that brought me here, but I was still stunned.
思った通りだ。妄想シンクロを使って隠してあったな。道理で見つからないわけだ。
Yeah. You would never have found it otherwise. Kunasato went up and put her hand against the wall. It disappeared just like mine had, which means it's not real booted.
実際に見せられるとまるで魔法だな。信じられない。
Oh, it's no magic trick.
実際にはただの錯覚だがな。
そうですね。中は見えますか？
俺が確かめよう。
The detective poked his head in. It disappeared into the wall without any resistance. There is a room
暗
inside.
くてよく見えないが、多分階段だ。地下へ続いてる。
Bingo.
新聞部の真下だったってことですか？
バカにされているようだな。まったく。
Yeah, that's rockery for you. Always a riot. Bastard. The detective took something out of his pocket. It was a small flashlight. Good thing you had one on you,
5分経っ
conveniently.
て俺が戻らないようなら逃げろ。
He tossed something at Kundesato, who grabbed it. It looked like a car key.
宮代くんの姿だけは誰にも見せるな。あと、アクセルは右だからな。
待て。
ん？
銃をすぐ使えるようにしていけ。威嚇射撃なんてするな。見つけたら構わず撃て。
Yeah, I'm with Mio. Although with that said, yeah, I doubt that Wakui would have actually left the room unattended.
おいおい、ここはあんたの国じゃないんだからな。
But the detective took out his gun and put it in his other hand. It was the first time I'd ever seen one, and I felt a shiver run down my back. I was forced to realize once more that this wasn't a game. And I'm glad that you've finally come to that realization, Serika Noe.
気をつけて。
あ、
The detective put his hand up against the wall without any hesitation, and then went inside.
宮代、そっちを見張っていろ。
はい。
Looks like we're on guard duty. The two of them ignored my shock as they stood back to back and watched their surroundings. They didn't seem surprised. Of course not. In fact, that seemed like a normal everyday occurrence for them. I forced myself to calm down and stand up, and wiped the mud off my clothes. I had goosebumps.
説明してください。何ですかこれ。
Serika's starting to panic. But she's not going to get any answers from these two. Neither of them looked at me. I just kept watching for any suspicious passers-by, and even if they're not suspicious, if they see us, we'll certainly be at a disadvantage.
皆さんは何をしようとしてるんですか？
カオスチャイルド症候群の治療のヒントを得るために、涌井の研究室にあるデータが必要だ。そう言っただろう。
I knew that. They told me 2 days ago.
そうじゃなくて、
I couldn't find the words. Too much had happened and I wasn't sure what to ask. With nothing else to do, I stood guard as well. Yeah. I know he's a detective and everything, and a professional, but sending Shinjo down there on his own, probably not the best idea. Because he's not going to entirely know what to look for. And still nothing. It was frustrating just sitting there and waiting for time to pass. I thought it had surely been 5 minutes, but it had been less than 1. As I kept looking at the time.
無事か？はあ。ああ、わかった。
Is she talking to Momose or Shinjo? Kunosato hung up and turned toward me.
クリアだ。ついてこい。
Huh. I'm actually surprised that, You could actually get phone reception down there. Then as soon as the words were out of her mouth, she vanished into the wall. Yeah, she's not wasting any time. Neither should we. What was I supposed to do? I didn't know what was going on, and I was scared. Yet down in that facility lie the answers.
君はここまででいい。急いで学園の外へ出ろ。
Even now, Takuru is telling Serika to go back, to not push too far, to not regain who she was. Miyashiro turned back to me and spoke.
ののたちは僕が絶対に回復させる。案内ありがとう。それじゃ、さよなら。
Miyashiro smiled and disappeared beyond the wall. When I heard his words, I felt a pain, like someone was squeezing my chest.
あれ、どうしたんだろう、私。
I couldn't run away. I just stood in front of the wall, feeling like I'd lost something important. I knew this feeling from somewhere, but I wasn't sure where. I'd forgotten something important, something that Takuru Miyashiro took from you. What was this feeling? As I said before, Takuru's efforts may have been warranted, and yet it's far from perfect. I slapped my hands against my cheeks as hard as I could. The old me would have gone beyond the wall, I know that much. So there was nothing to be afraid of. It was much more important that I remember. I put my hands up against the wall to make sure that there was nothing there one more time, and then plunged inside. Of course, doing this will definitely lead to the undoing of everything that Takuru Miyashiro did. And yet, that's how it has to be, I guess. I went down the long, narrow staircase, holding my hand against the wall. It was dim but not completely dark. There was a tiny bit of light leaking up from below. Down into the depths we go. Each time I took a step, the memories became more clear. There was no mistaking it. I'd been here before. It wasn't deja vu.
前の私って一体何だったの？
Yeah. You're not going to like the answer to that, Serika. And it will almost certainly break Takuru's heart for you to find out. I've been a student here at Hekiho, even though I didn't have ChäoS Child Syndrome. Maybe I was a scientist like Kunasato? Not exactly. And that's why I was talking to Wakui down here. Again. Not exactly. No, that didn't seem right. There was no way a normal girl like me could be a scientist. weird smile appeared on my face as I started to think about different ideas. Each time the lid almost came off my memories, I started to feel terrible, and I smiled to take my mind off it. Don't go down there. You can't go down there. I could feel someone whispering that deep within my heart. My legs wouldn't go back. What if the old me was a totally different person? That she was. What if knowing about her changed me? Even if it did, I still wanted to know about the real me. And then I finally reached the bottom of the stairs. Well, I passed the point of no return. Here we are. It's exactly like the facility in the hospital. Row after row of TV monitors filled the space. Are they also watching where the 11th Rorschach was placed throughout Shibuya? I wonder. I knew the site. I'd seen it in the visions. Or the visions of this room. More than just visions. Miyashiro looked angry at me for not listening to his warning. Your plan was flawed, Takuru Miyashiro. It was not without its risks. Besides, it was imperfect. After all, if you had truly succeeded in making Serika Noe a normal girl, she wouldn't have had the gaps in her memory to begin with. But he didn't say anything.
どうだ?
黙ってろ。気が散る。
Kunazato sat down in front of the computer and began typing at an incredible speed. He seemed to be doing a detailed check of the data on it. With all the equipment down here.
いける。データが揃ってるぞ。
Well, we got in.
本当ですか?
More importantly, Kunasato actually smiled for once.
急いで始めるぞ。
はい。
新庄さんは表で監視を頼む。何かあったらすぐに知らせてくれ。
ああ、データのバックアップを取っておけよ。
誰に言ってる?
Shinjo smiled back and ran up the stairs. Your confidence is admirable, Mio, but I wouldn't celebrate just yet.
宮代、中へ入れ。装置に座ったらすぐに注射を。
はい。
注射の仕方はもう大丈夫だな。
Injections?
はい、さすがに。病院で何度も怒られましたから。
何度教えてもお前が覚えないからだ。
Yashiro ran into the next room, looking a little excited.
何か見つかったんですか？
Kunasato had started typing again.
ああ、予測していた通り、装置と必要なデータがあったんだ。
So basically everything. A treasure trove.
カオスチャイルド症候群を治療できるかもしれない。
If by cure you mean complete and total reversal. Her voice lilted slightly. I'd never seen her so happy. Yeah, this is the only time in which Mio Kunasato is ever happy.
それじゃあクルスさんたちも？
おそらくな。
There's hope. I couldn't help but sigh in relief.
どうやって治療するんですか？必要なデータって？
画像だ。
Huh?
画像って写真とか絵とかそういう画像ですか？
If the committee of 300 engineered an 11th Rorschach, then could it be possible that they've engineered a 12th? As a counter for the sumo stickers, perhaps. You could cure the disease with a picture? That didn't make any sense. But from the way Kunasato was acting, it must be.
そもそもカオスチャイルド症候群って原因は何なんですか？しかもどうして症候群の人の中でクルスさんたちだけが昏睡状態になっているんです？
Very important questions. To very important answers. That was something I've been wondering for a while. The town was filled with ChäoS Child Syndrome patients wandering around. Kunasato stopped typing and hesitated for a moment. Then she looked at me and whispered, I guess it's all right.
お前、クルスたち以外の症候群者を見たことはあるな。
Indeed, on the streets of the Scramble Crossing. I nodded. I just seen some at the crossing and I'd seen a whole class of them here at Hekiho.
どう感じた？
どうって言われても。
They were probably actually middle school age. It seemed like they had no idea that anything was wrong. The ones in the classroom had looked straight at me. Not realizing they
な
were.
んていうか自分たちに都合のいい夢の中で生きてるみたいっていうか。
Trapped within a delusion.
ほう。確信をついてるじゃないか。
Kunasato smiled. A teacher whose student just got a good grade and went back to typing at the keyboard. She seemed to find the data she was looking for because she nodded in satisfaction.
カントの右手と左手の話にウィトゲンシュタインが反論した話は知っているか？
I have to confess, I am not. From the names, maybe they were important scientists or something. I doubted any high school girl had actually heard of them, or anyone else for that matter.
頭と尻が逆になっている2本のマッチ棒は回転させて重ねれば同一のものだが、一次元人はそれに気づかない。 背中合わせになっている2つの直角三角形はつまみ上げて重ねれば同一のものだが、二次元人はそれに気づかない。いずれもその次元の人間に認識できないからだ。自分たちの世界に回転やつまみ上げるといった行為や概念が存在すること自体知覚できないからだ。
はあ。
I didn't get what she was saying at all. It has to do with dimensional space, I guess.
違う次元にいる者たちはそれぞれ自分たちだけにしか理解できない世界にいる。お前が言った通り、都合のいい夢の中、つまり妄想の中にいるんだ。研究者の間では妄想シンクロと呼ばれている現象でな。宮代も言っていただろう。あいつらは妄想で視覚や聴覚、触覚さえも作り上げている。
So they're all sharing the same delusions.
つまりこの学園の生徒たちは全員で同じようなすっごいリアルな幻覚を見てるってことですか？
Is that really possible? With a certain mechanical device, it is. Kunosato seemed to sense my disbelief. Her expression was completely serious.
正確には脳波を介して全員が妄想を共有しているんだ。だから妄想シンクロと呼ばれる。この施設の入り口もその仕組みを使って閉ざされていた。私たちはそこに壁があるという妄想を共有させられていたせいで、ここを見つけることも入ることもできなかった。
Yeah, because that delusion of a wall was imprinted in our dead spots.
だが、お前によって実際にそれは壁ではないことが示されてしまった。私たちの間にあった妄想の共有は破られ、そのせいで壁は用をなさなくなった。
なるほど。
I didn't understand still, but I decided to pretend I did.
そしてそれと同じようにカオスチャイルド症候群者たちが全員抱いている妄想シンクロから脱し、それを壊せる奴が現れたんだ。
それが宮代？
So Takuru broke that delusion.
あいつが症候群から帰還したことで、この渋谷全体で共有されていた妄想の輪が崩れた。症候群者の中から他の症候群者の妄想とシンクロしないやつが出てしまったんだからな。
Does that mean that Takuru and the others were... that everything that we've been through up until this time? I mean, sure, there was a return of the new generation madness, that's still a given. But everything else... was that part of the delusion caused by Chaos Child Syndrome?
さっきの例で例えるなら、この学園の生徒全体で壁にぶつかるパントマイムをしているというのに、宮代がその壁を平気で素通りし、一気に世界をぶち壊しにするようなものだ。 あるいは映画の世界の住人に向かって宮代がカットと叫ぶと考えてもいい。
I remembered my hand going through the wall. It was like a bad dream or a bad joke.
クルスたちの脳は宮代のおかげで妄想の共有から解放されたが、現実とのギャップに耐えきれず昏睡状態に陥った。
Again, I wonder, is this truly reality?
実際昏睡状態に陥ったのはいずれも宮代と距離が近かった連中だった。
I remembered the people in the hospital room. It was Kurisu, and then Arimura, Kazuki, and Yamazoe, right?
もちろん昏睡自体は危険で楽観視できないが、それは症候群から脱却するためにあいつらの脳が妄想と現実との間で戦っている証拠だ。むしろ必要な過程と言える。
So they're trapped.
だから私たちは他の連中、そうと知らずに妄想シンクロに溺れている奴らからもその妄想を奪い取る。
So what will happen when they finally wake up from that delusion? Kunasato grinned wickedly.
そうすればあいつらはいずれ現実に帰還するだろう。宮代と同じように。宮代、薬は注射したか？
はい。
Kunasato started talking into some kind of microphone, and I could hear Miyajiro's voice from the speaker next to it. Does that mean he's now fully cured?
脳波のデータを取り始めるぞ。いいな。
はい。お願いします。
Yeah, there's still more. He sounded kind of out of it. What was he doing in the next room?
宮代はどうして症候群から帰還できたんですか？
さあな、知りたきゃ本人に聞けと。そうだな、それがちょうどいい話題になるか。宮代の横で喋りかけていてくれないか。データを取りやすくするために鎮静剤を打っているが、かといって眠ってもらっては困る。
I wondered whether or not you'd given him a sedative, and now I know.
新庄さんがいれば頼むところだが、今はお前しかいないからな。まあ薬の効果はすぐに切れてくる。それほど長い時間じゃない。
Very well then. Kunasato saw my hesitation and motioned for me to get going. I had no choice but to head into the next room.
悪いな。
It's the first time that I've ever heard an apology from Mio Kunasato. I heard her speak, but I didn't answer. I could tell that she wasn't talking to me. The second I came inside, I was sure. This was the room. There was no doubt about it. This was where I would talk to Wakui in the visions. It was a cold, white room. A room that we have actually never seen before until this moment. A hospital room, or maybe an operating room. There was a device in the middle of the room, like something you'd see in a science fiction movie. And strapped within that device, or chair rather, is Takuru. Miyashiro was lying on the back on her seat in the middle of the device. It looked like something out of a spaceship cockpit, although this is no vessel. He wasn't asleep, but the drugs made him look really tired. Yeah, tranquilizers tend to do that.
別に。
I told him I'd come to keep him from falling asleep and pulled up a chair and sat down.
何なのその機械。それで何するの？
久野里さんから聞いてない。
No, she did not.
よくわからなかった。
All I got was that she was going to take Miyashiro's brainwaves, and that she'd use them to do something about ChäoS Child Syndrome.
ああ、あの人の話は難しいからね。情弱は利用するか、置いてけぼりにする人だから。
私が情報弱者なのは思い出せないから。肝心なことはあんたたちが話さないからでしょ。
Miyashiro looked at me in surprise.
へえ、情弱って言葉知ってるんだ。
That she does, Takuru.
バカにしないで。
Well, I'd only learned it a bit ago. Suddenly the machine started to give off a low moan and I almost jumped.
あ、大丈夫。脳波のスキャンが始まった音だ。
Miyashiro looked up at the rings spinning around his head as he talked.
これで僕の脳波を取って、それを元に画像を起こすんだよ。
久野里さんも言ってた。何なのそれ。
I couldn't have him falling asleep, so I prodded him for an answer. I wonder... Did Serika send this device? Was she the reason the 11th Rorschach exists?
僕と症候群者の違いは、脳波のパターンにあるらしいんだ。そしてそれが、僕の帰還できた理由。
Indeed. Takuru was different from the other third melt gigalomaniacs, after all.
症候群者だけが見ると気分が悪くなってしまう特殊な画像があってね。どうやら症候群者は視覚から得る情報に敏感みたいなんだ。
Yeah, that's the sumo sticker for you.
まあ普通の人でも8割以上の情報は視覚に頼ってるんだけどね。久野里さんや僕はそこからヒントを得た。症候群の人が見れば僕と同じ脳波を出す。そんな画像を作ればいいんじゃないかってね。その画像を使えば全ての症候群者の脳波を僕と同じように変えられる。そ それで全員が現実に帰還するはずなんだ。
In other words, undo all this, if that's even possible. Which it might be. Maybe. His voice was getting softer. I needed to keep him talking about something. It didn't matter what. So when we return, adventurers, we shall keep this conversation going. And see if we can finally get to the heart of the matter at hand. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer, step by step. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.